This year was my first year using Google Classroom. With Davidson County Schools decided to incorporate it into their classrooms. So this was my first experience with it, and I felt like that once I began using it, it was something that I was really going to love, and I was so excited to see this kind of technology being brought into the classroom and being more universal than any of the other programs I had used in my classroom. I have a computer lab, and even though I teach drafting, it is a lot of drawings, but I like to be able to have all of my students on the same page with technology and making sure that they all have the same information. Having Google Classroom this year, I was able to incorporate all my notes, everything into this. It was almost like creating a forum with the technology, similar to an online class, but actually having the face-to-face opportunity. So this is just kind of an introduction of how I used Google Classroom, and I have actually left the Davidson County school system, so I do not have my classroom set up at this point, but I just kind of wanted to give you an introduction to how I used it. Google Classroom is a way to create a class, distribute assignments, send feedback, and see everything in one place, instant, paperless, and easy. It was awesome because I would use my Google Docs for notes. I would use Google Forms for my test, my quizzes, almost everything. My students knew more in my second semester class because I began integrating that from day one, that we would be using that. And each student had their own personal email, their Google Mail, and it was a really great tool. So this just kind of shows, since I can't show you what my website looked like, this is just kind of what the classroom looked like. Every classroom was set up, and this is what it would look like from the teacher's end. The student end was pretty similar, but they of course couldn't see the students in the classroom. It's a little more private on the teachers, or it was a little more private on the student end. They could interact with other students, but they couldn't see what the other students had turned in. What they would do, each classroom has an individualized code, and once you create the classroom, that code is created, and it would automatically be created. So I would send my students that classroom code, and all they would do is type that in, and it will automatically ask them to join it. My students could also, you can also add your students by adding their email or inviting them. I preferred to have them join it automatically. Set them up in my classroom. So it was a really, really cool tool to have. And this just kind of gives you some information. This shows us how to add your first assignment. So anytime I needed to add an assignment, I would, you would either select assignment or announcement. The announcements, the students couldn't actually turn in work, but they could respond to anything. A lot of times with announcements, if it was a previous day's work, I would go continue working on this project, you know. And the students knew as soon as they got in my classroom, they logged into their Google Classroom, and they would have what they were to be working on for that day. And some of the students were great, and they would begin to work immediately on it. I had students go, well, I can't find this, and I would, this information, and I would go, well, go to your Google Classroom, that's where I posted it. So this would be like the assignment here, and when you would post the information, it would tell you how many. If you have 22 students in your class, it would say they were not done. Once they completed this, it would show how many were done. And one great thing as well is I could create an individual student file. So what you would do is add the file, and it would say create for students to only view the option. Could they add the file? Just various things. And a lot of times I would use things to where they could actually create an individual file for each of the students. So they would see that they had access to each of their own file that way. So I would send them the files that way, and they would each have their own assignment. Students could also view their information on their cell phones or their iPads or anything. Any kind of technology pretty much had the ability to access the Google Classroom app. And I found this great because if I needed to make any changes, I could add that information. It was also a great tool if I was going to be out of school and I had a substitute. I could post their information while I was out. If I had a sick child, I wasn't having to come up with assignments. I could just quickly go on there. My students, I would just tell the sub that they needed to log into Google Classroom, they would find their information. So they could also ask me any questions. You know, anytime I was out, that was something else too. I would go, make sure to email me or ask me a question. Just let me know if you have any questions. And they would submit their assignments. And it was just a really, really great tool. You do have to have an account set up at your school. The school does have to have a Google app account, which is why I can't log in right now, because I'm in the middle of school changing schools. So hopefully more and more people are discovering this technology. Google is such a great corporation to work with, and any information or questions we've had, they were awesome to work with us. So Google Classroom is my new favorite thing, and I look forward to working with it in the future.